Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipse, and as always, I have the great pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Shifman. How are you today, Matt?
I am good, Brian. We got a big weekend of racing at the fairgrounds in New Orleans.
Oh yeah, Matt. We're gonna saunter down to the Big Easy for a big card. Today on the show, we're talking about three nice graded stakes in particular. Matt, let's take a look at our cover. Boy, there he is. Victory Formation, the favorite, the deserved favorite on the morning line for that 14 horse field. Last week I said I was happy there's 12. How about 14 in the Risen Star, Matt, led by Victory Formation? This 9 furlong, $400,000 grade 2 has attracted a lot of horses, Matt, and we got to start with the number 13. Lucky 13 or unlucky 13, Victory Formation.
Yeah, that's a good question, Brian. Will the 13 be lucky or unlucky? You certainly never want to draw that far outside in a big race. Yes, Victory Formation has good tactical speed, and I think with a good break, if everything goes smoothly, he should be able to get into a good position from the far outside. But when you're way out there, there's not much room for error.
I totally agree with you, Matt. This horse has done nothing wrong for trainer Brad Cox so far in his career. Of course, he's unbeaten. The son of Taprit, we're seeing Taprits hit the scene a little bit, and this has been the best one so far. Victory Formation, already a stakes winner coming over from Oaklawn Park. But that 13 hole, Matt, this looks like a field with some speed in it. And as we are going to switch over to the Timeform U.S. pace projection, we're going to see that they are projecting a pretty lively pace here with a lot of horses out there. They got the 13, the favorite, on the early lead, but see that big red button in the top right, Matt? That's a red. That's a fast pace. And I tell you what, this is a race, 9 furlongs, that over the years we've seen horses rally in. And with a fast pace and with the favorite, kind of stuck out there pretty wide. Maybe some more speed to the outside as well. I think it's a tough task for the favorite, and this is a race where I don't know about you, but I'm gonna try to beat that favorite.
Yeah, I think you have to, Brian. As good as Victory Formation has looked, and as good as Brad Cox is doing on the Kentucky Derby Trail, he already has 5 wins in Derby points races with 4 different horses. He's making all the right moves. Boy, it's a tough spot to put your money on the favorite in here. So yeah, I am going to try and beat Victory Formation also. But if he gets out there, he could be tough.
Yeah. All things being equal, he's certainly the horse to beat. His form, the barn he comes from, his forward progression. But we agree, and especially when we're considering the odds of this race, where he is the clear favorite in this large field, it's a difficult spot. He could run a very good race and still lose. So we're taking a shot against the favorite. We got a gaggle of horses to talk about, Matt. I think there's some long shots on the inside there. Maybe number 2, Single Ruler, is a playable bomb, if you will, because DeSormo does this every once in a while with ralliers. But after the first 3, you see a bunch of horses that we could talk about. Determinedly, the number 4 horse comes off a nice win last time in a very good allowance race over the track.
Yes, absolutely, Brian. And he was also 3rd in the Gun Runner Stakes and picked up a few Derby points there. This is one of the horses that could be part of that fast pace, or could be a factor in determining that fast pace. For Mark Casse, they get better the more that they run. But I don't know. I had a little bit of a feeling that the 1 1/8 might be just a bit too far for this guy.
Yeah, we're also talking about a strong pace, and Determinedly, I thought, got an easier pace, certainly last time, than he will here. And I don't know, the horses that finished second and the third might offer a little bit more interest to me, actually, coming out of that nice allowance race. We'll see. Another horse who could be out there, Harlow Cat, Matt. We're starting to see Baffert horses, or this one, I guess, is the first one I can think of, anyway, that's moved from Baffert. He's gone to the Asmussen barn. He's run 3 races out in Southern California, and he's shown plenty of speed and certainly some promise.
Yes, absolutely. Broke his maiden in that third try out at California at Santa Anita, moved to the Asmussen barn, but just recently moved to the Asmussen barn. He showed a workout, I think last week at Santa Anita, assumingly for Baffert still. So Asmussen's got him. I don't think he's had time to probably, do too much with the horse, but we'll see. Certainly not one of Baffert's first stringers, though.
Not one of his first stringers, but on the other hand, maybe a horse who is moving forward. Yeah, we could call this horse a Baffert horse, because I really do think that the only reason he's in the Asmussen barn for this race and maybe a couple of races is for Kentucky Derby qualifying points. Number 6 is another horse we need to talk about, another horse from the Brad Cox barn. He's got 2 wins out of 4 starts, Angel of Empire I'm talking about, Matt. Angel of Empire was beaten by his stablemate Victory Formation last time, but of the 2, Angel of Empire looks like a horse who can make up some ground in the stretch. Maybe he's a horse who's on the improve. Maybe he can turn the tables on his stablemate here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is another Brad Cox. Certainly cannot be discounted. Got those 2 wins in Indiana, where Cox often will run horses. I liked his late rally in the Smarty Jones. He looks like he's going to be well suited to the fairgrounds long stretch drive, and according to the pace projector, is going to get the right setup.
Yeah, according to the pace projector, you see him there, number 6. He's near the back of the pack. Let's look at some of these horses near the back of the pack. The number 7 is Sun Thunder, 15-1 for trainer Kenny McPeak. I think he'll be longer than that, and he probably deserves to be longer than that, looking at his past performances in comparison to the rest of these horses. But on the other hand, if you're looking for a rallier and you're looking for a horse with big odds, Sun Thunder is one that I could consider using in the exotics.
Yeah, and his 4th place finish in the Southwest against a good field, that's not a throwout race.
That's right, and if this is a race where the pace collapsed a little bit and horses are really picking up the pace, Sun Thunder is a possibility. Outside or behind him, the only horse behind him actually on this pace projector, I should say, is number 12, Croupi. Let's talk about Croupi real quick, Matt, as we're working from the back up. Croupi is still a maiden, and it's hard to believe that a maiden would win this $400,000 Grade 2 Kentucky Derby Prep. But on the other hand, Croupi, there's a bunch of things to like there. Sonic Curlin, who has seemingly improved a little bit as the distances have gotten longer. He's also raced against, this is going to sound weird, maiden races, all of them in New York. He's literally found good horses, multiple good horses in some of them, in every single one of those maidens, where he never failed in rallying to hit the board.
Yeah, and not only were they tough fields, but the winner of each of those races is a very good horse. Some of them are coming back. One of them is Disarm, who I think is running on the undercard on Saturday for Steve Asmussen. Yeah, and I think with Croupi, I think his last race, where again he rallied to finish a neck behind a horse for Al Gold's Gold Square stable. I think that may have been his best race yet.
Yeah, he looks like a horse who should be suited for 9 furlongs. They were 15 lengths ahead of the next challenger in that last maiden race. So 2 promising horses coming out of the maiden race there. Croupi, still a maiden, but an interesting maiden at that. All right, Matt, let's keep working down this field here. Let's talk about both the 8 and the 11. Tapit's Conquest is actually the second choice on the morning line at 6-1. There were a bunch of horses that could have been the second choice on this morning line. Tapit's Conquest, kind of a promising horse who just missed behind Determinedly in that good allowance race over the track recently. And number 11, Silver Heist, very lightly raced. He was a pretty good third in that race as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned that allowance race, and for me, it was Tapit's Conquest that I liked best out of there. Another Brad Cox horse that seemingly is going to get better as a son of Tapit.
Yeah, he ran a nice race there. Again, I thought Determinedly probably had the pace advantage, as did Silver Heist, considering his experience. So two horses certainly to give a good look at here in the Risen Star. The next two horses on their list are horses with plenty of stakes experience, although Curly Jack has not run yet this year, but he did quite a bit last year. If you look at the series of stakes races he ran, he might have the most stakes experience and solid stakes experience.
Yeah, and when you take a look at Curly Jack, you'll see the morning line odds of 8-1. I don't know about that, Brian, if you're going to get 8-1, but if you get 8-1 on Curly Jack, wow, that would be quite a price. A son of Good Magic, has earned 17 Derby qualifying points already, which this year could be enough already to get him into the field. He won the Iroquois. He was 5th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He was 2nd in the Kentucky Jockey Club. And then just recently, you can read the article on Horse Racing Nation where one of the HRN reporters talked to Tom Amos, and Amos said that, the races that Curly Jack ran last year that weren't as good as others were really due to his inexperience, and he wasn't quite fully understanding how to compete. I expect Curly Jack to come out running in the Risen Star. He won at first asking as a 2-year-old.
Yeah, Curly Jack, an interesting horse as well, as is Two Phils, I think, a horse who was working out at Hawthorne, of all places, up in Chicago. Two Phils did come back after being a 2-time stakes winner at 2 and ran a pretty good race last time.
Yeah, he did. Second place finish in the Lecomte maybe was his best race of his career. A real consistent hard knocker.
Yeah, 9 furlongs. I think there's some question marks with some of these horses, and maybe Two Phils falls into that a little bit. The only horse we haven't talked about at all yet, Matt, or of the ones that we need to talk about, maybe is Private Creed, because he's a very nice turf horse. I say turf horse because he's never run on dirt before. So it'll be interesting to see. He's hung out in the 14 hole, though.
Yeah, that's for sure. And hey, he's by far the leading money winner in this field, Brian. A really great 2-year-old campaign going on the turf. All of his races, except his most recent win in the Texas Turf Mile, were in sprints. So, Brian, yeah, you mentioned being way out on the 14 hole, now having to stretch out to 1 1/8, going from turf to dirt. It's a tough ask.
Yeah, it does seem like a tough ask for that Steve Asmussen turf to dirt runner here in the Risen Star. Wow, that's 14 of them, Matt. Good field for the Risen Star. Interesting betting race if Matt and I are right about the favorite being vulnerable. Matt, we're going to shift gears from the Colts to the Fillies. We don't have to talk about 14 here, not even close. In fact, we're going to talk about just a measly half dozen. It's a pretty interesting measly half dozen there as my voice goes up an octave or two, Matt. We talked about Tom Amos a little bit, or you already did, talking about Curly Jack. I think he's higher on his filly than his colt, though. And the filly, of course, is Hoosier Filly. And Hoosier Filly was just a sensation in Louisville last year. 3 for 3, all at Churchill Downs. She sprinted in a maiden race, won that professionally. And then Amos wanted to get her in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies off only that sprint. You know the story. She was number 1 on our Kentucky Oaks list last week. And then she just dominated when she couldn't get into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. She dominated both the Ragstar Riches and the Goldenrod. both at 2 turns, one on the slop, one on a fast track. Amos continues to rave about her. Her workouts are really, really good since she's gotten to New Orleans. Hoosier Philly could be the real deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, a daughter of Into Mischief always coming up. Didn't get into the Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies. I guess Wonder Wheel's probably happy about that at this point. Those 2 stakes wins by a combined margin, Brian, of 12 lengths.
Yeah, she looked awesome at Churchill Downs, and in fact, she was flattered a little bit when Pretty Mischievous came out of that last one, the Goldenrod, well beaten third in the Goldenrod, and then easily won a stakes at Fairgrounds. She's in the field, but the second choice on the morning line, and I'm a little dubious of this morning line, Matt. 6-5 on Hoosier Philly, 8-5 on Chop Chop. Respect for Brad Cox, maybe, but I think the chasm, the gap there won't be a small one like you see on the morning line. I think that'll be a bigger gap. In fact, we got a hint of that as Hoosier Philly took a whole lot of money in the Kentucky Derby future wager as a filly. So Chop Chop, though, 8-5 on the morning line. She was a stakes winner. She was 2 for 2 on turf. She switched to dirt. She's run 2 very good seconds, not so good in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile fillies. But coming off a good prep, went second last time over the track.
Yeah. Second in the Alcibiades, second in the Silver Bull a Day. Interesting after, those wins on the turf and a couple of good second places. Brad Cox puts the blinkers on.
Hopefully that he's hoping that will keep her a little bit more focused here. We're looking at the pace projector now from Timeform US, Matt. We see that there's not a lot of speed here. I think both Chop Chop and probably the third choice that we can talk about, Pretty Mischievous, both have a little bit of tactical speed, maybe not quite as much as the favorite there. So you see the favorite sitting in second, Hoosier Philly. Miracle, the New York bred filly, changing barns, Matt. And I know you like that barn change for this New York bred filly. She's projected to set the pace, which doesn't look like a big, strong early pace in here.
No, it doesn't. And I wouldn't be surprised if Hoosier Philly ends up on the lead a little bit earlier than usual. Yeah, this New York bred is a daughter of Mendelssohn. First start for Todd Pletcher.
First start for Todd Pletcher, and she's only run against New York breds before, although pretty solid 3 stakes attempts where she's been in the picture each time. Another horse you saw maybe close to the lead is the one horse, and let's look at that one more time. The one horse Vanna. She is a filly of some talent, or so I've heard, and she's kind of flashed the talent. She's taken a lot of money. I guess she stumbled out of the gate last time. She was actually favored in that stakes race, but she was a well-beaten third last time. But people are still talking about her a little bit as a horse who could develop into a nice filly.
Yep, as a daughter of a gun runner and out of the barn of trainer Cherie DeVoe.
Cherie DeVoe, that's right. Hey, number 5, Matt, we haven't talked about yet. Pretty Mischievous. I mentioned that she was beaten pretty good by Hoosier Philly in the Goldenrod, but she was third that day, just missed second in the Goldenrod. That's her only loss. Pretty Mischievous, 3 for 4 lifetime, and she has the advantage over Hoosier Philly this time around because in this mile and 16th, Rachel Alexandra, she has a prep over the track, and it was a very good prep because she won the Untappable nicely. The filly that she beat, the Alley's Look, came back and won the next stakes race on this Kentucky Oaks Trail in New Orleans. So Pretty Mischievous coming into this Rachel Alexandra the right way. And if you're looking at the odds for second choice between Chop Chop and Pretty Mischievous on this morning line, that's a big gap. And that gap interests me because I'm really not sure that I like Chop Chop better than Pretty Mischievous.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Pretty Mischievous, another daughter of Into Mischief in here. Godolphin homebred, trained by Brandon Walsh, 3 for 4 in her career. And like you said, that only loss was in the Goldenrod in a tough field. hard to say anything bad about this horse.
Yeah, and you gotta like the filly who has a win over the track, Matt. Let's take a look at the track trends real quick from Horse Racing Nation, because I think this will be one track that bucks the trend, if you will, a little bit, Matt. In that we're looking at the route races, the distance races, the two-turn races, last 92 of them at the fairgrounds, and you're going to see horses can win from outside of the early post positions. But the one thing that strikes me is that more than 60% of these races, I guess it's 39% for the early leader or right on the lead. That's a pretty low number as we're looking at dirt races that go more than one turn. So fairgrounds is certainly a track where you can rally, and that's bore out a little bit in the recent history at the fairgrounds.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's certainly in the recent history of the Risen Star.
That's right,
and Rachel Alexandra. Yeah,
that's right. We're looking for races that might just favor horses from off the pace. I don't know if it's going to happen per se in the Rachel Alexandra, but certainly the other two races we're covering, especially the Risen Star, it could be set up for horses that like to come from out of it. And as we see in the track trends, it is a track that you can do it. All right. Speaking of horses that are going to be off the pace, Matt, where? There she is, number 3. Knock your socks off. Good old Chris Block. I have a nice history with Chris Block in Chicago, usually coming down to Kentucky, sometimes New Orleans as well. Knock your socks off. I tell you what, she's going to be a long shot in here in the 6-horse field. I certainly could see her. I know it's not a fast pace, but I could certainly see her picking up some pieces. She'll be all alone near the back of the pack. She has a very good record on both turf and dirt. And her last race, she rallied past Pretty Mischievous in the Goldenrod.
Yeah, and important to note, that was her first start on the dirt after, some impressive races in stakes on the turf. So a versatile horse, but that was a really nice move in a strong field in the Goldenrod.
Yeah, and the daughter of Kit and Joy, you're right. That was the first try on dirt. So this is her second try on dirt. Fairgrounds is a horse track you can rally at. There'll probably be some real jockeying for position early and on the turn. And I know it's only a 6-horse field, but if you're looking for someone to keep fill out the exotics near the bottom, why not daughter of Kitten's Joy? Knock your socks off, man. I like that name as well. So yeah, that's the 6-horse field in the Rachel Alexandra, of course, led by Hoosier Philly. We got one more nice graded stakes race, Matt, and it is a nice grade stakes race. I don't think these are grade 1 older horses per se. There might be a horse in here who can run with grade 1 horses later in the year, but this grade 3 mile 16th Mineshaft, $250,000, has come up with a pretty solid 9-horse field. I really can't dismiss any one horse in the race completely. I guess Farmington Road is the longest shot on the board, but every once in a while he pops up. He's done it throughout his career, an experienced horse. But I still am looking at the 3 favorites as the most likely winners, Matt. Happy American, Tawny Port, Pioneer Medina. The morning lines maker didn't really separate them much. 7-2, 4-1, 9-2. I think all 3 of them have a good shot. I guess we start with the morning line favorite, Happy American, the 6th. He's starting to get on a roll since he's got to New Orleans.
Yeah, absolutely. For a veteran trainer, Neil Pessin, I would say that Happy American is in the best form of his career, with a nice win in the Louisiana and a nice win in the Tenacious Stakes at Fairgrounds. We have got, a few horses coming out of that Louisiana in this Mineshaft field.
Yeah, he only won by a neck in the Tenacious over Mr. Wireless, who's back, and the number 8, and also pretty close to the other 3 that I mentioned on the morning line. Happy American beat him by a neck. But I really noticed the early fractions there, and they were slow. And for Happy American still to make up all the ground he did and get up for the win in that Tenacious, that was an impressive record. The 5-year-old son of Run Happy, as you said, is really going well now and seems to be in the best form of his career. So Happy American, a horse I think certainly can get a 1.25 miles, but This is a mile 16th, and that's what he's been doing at the fairgrounds, and that's what he's been winning stakes at. So Happy American is threat there in the Mineshaft. Let's talk about the second choice, Matt. The 3, Tawny Port. Quietly, I think Tawny Port had a very good 3-year-old season for trainer Brad Cox. He ran a good Kentucky Derby. He ran a good Jim Dandy against the top 3-year-olds in the country. He won Grade 3 race, the Ohio Derby, the Lexington. He didn't run a ton last year, but I thought he ran a lot of good races. Tawny Port returning for his first race as an older horse on Saturday.
Yes, absolutely. Coming back off of a layoff, this will be his first start as an older horse against, and also his first start against older horses. I don't know how much that matters. I think he fits well in this Grade 3, along with the victories that he had last year from the barn of Brad Cox. How much will he make a step forward going from 3 to 4 in this first start for Brad Cox is the big question.
Yeah, Matt. And I tell you what, if there's one who does go on to pretty big things in the handicap division this year, as much as I said about Happy American, I do think that Tawny Port could be the one. Tawny Port, like I said, he ran some very good races as a 3-year-old last year, and he's in the right barn to only get better as a 4-year-old there for Brad Cox. So Tawny Port is certainly a horse I'm watching here as he makes his 4-year-old debut in the Mineshaft, his first race since a disappointing effort. Some horses ran poorly in that Pennsylvania Derby. It was a deep field. He certainly did, but Skippy Longstockings bounced back from a poor performance in the Pennsylvania Derby. Let's see if Tawny Port can do it. Let's also look at the Timeform US pace projector here, Matt. Not a ton of speed. You see some horses out there a little bit, but they're not running fast to do it. Horses that are considered on the morning line are out front. Run Classic, still a lightly raced son of Run Happy, who has been beaten in stakes races throughout his career. He keeps showing promise, like he could break through in a stakes race. Maybe he had just a little bit of traffic last time, went 4th, but a horse you can't throw out. And Big Blue Line, trained by my friend Paul McGee, is a horse who probably ran his best career race last time over the track.
Yeah, that's a Maryland bred, interestingly, for Paul McGee, the brother of racing farm writer Marty McGee. Nice win in an allowance race at Fairgrounds. And another horse in here that you certainly have to consider.
Yeah, and Big Blue Line, if I look at his form, he tried several stakes last year, not quite good enough to win the stakes he was in. But that last race stands out a little bit. If you look at the speed figures over the track, with a race without a lot of speed, you at least have to consider Big Blue Line, as well as I think Run Classic deserves another shot in this class. So 2 horses who could be out there. The other horse close to the lead here is a little baffling to me because he's a rallier, but he's been sprinting. His name is Hoist the Gold. Hoist the Gold has proven to be a good sprinter when he closes. Now he's going 2 turns in this mile 16th Mineshaft against what we're calling a pretty good Grade 3 field. A lot of respect there on the morning line at 6-1, but I don't know if I'm buying it for a horse who I already know likes to rally in sprints.
Yeah, I agree. I guess, that morning line is a reflection of the 3rd place finish that he had in the Malibu out in California. But again, you're talking about a sprint race and now going long from the barn of Dallas Stewart. Interestingly, Hoist the Gold is a son of Mineshaft in this Mineshaft Stakes.
Yeah, horse of the year. Mineshaft was a good one. He was a good one in New Orleans. This race is named after him, and he's the sire of Hoist the Gold, as Matt points out. Let's work to the outside a little bit, Matt. King Fury is a horse who I thought had a lot of potential, a graded stakes winner, son of Curlin, a really well-bred son of Curlin, and Terrace is his dam. But he just hasn't looked the part of late. It's hard to get excited about him, but both the 7 and the 8 we have to talk about. Pioneer Medina. He wasn't as prominently displayed on this Timeform US pace projector as I thought he might be. There he is down on the rail in 4th. I could see him being closer to the lead here or maybe even on the lead, Matt. like Tawny Port, he ran in some good races last year. He's got speed in a race without a lot of speed. Pioneer Medina coming over from Gulfstream Park certainly seems like a horse to watch out for on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree, Brian, and I agree with your comments about the pace projector. Yeah, Pioneer of Medina could certainly be much closer, could maybe even be on the lead for Todd Pletcher. He ran a really, really good second in the Harlan's Holiday at Gulfstream Park behind Skippy Longstocking that you mentioned, earning the highest speed figure in the field. Had the lead, finished second. To me, he's a dangerous horse that has tactical speed in a field that doesn't really have that much speed.
Yeah, and number 8, Mr. Wireless, is another horse who has a little bit of tactical speed, maybe comes a little bit farther out of it, but he can stay close, and he's just a hard-hitting horse who's run a lot of good races. Like I said, he was beaten just a neck last time by Happy American, the morning line favorite. Mr. Wireless certainly gets consideration here, Matt, but it's time. It's time we get to brass tacks and make our top picks for these 3 interesting graded stakes from Fairgrounds. I'm going to let you go first. We'll start with the Risen Star. That's what we started with. Why not do that first? 14 horses, Matt. Who's your top pick?
Yeah, and as we talked about when we were doing the analysis of the race, I think we're both trying to beat the favorite Victory Formation, although I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being the winner. I'm going with Curly Jack. I expect Curly Jack to have a big benefit from the time off from November. I expect him to be more experienced and ready to compete. And if he runs back to some of his good performances last year, he's going to be tough and not the favorite. I talked about that 8-1 on the morning line. I don't know if we're going to get it, but if we get close to it, I'm excited.
I kind of think you will. All these horses to bet. Why not? Why not 7-8-1 on Curly Jack, who is a very nice 2-year-old for trainer Tom Amos? Shoot me in the head now, Matt. I'm picking a maiden to win a big race, but Krupe, there's just too much to like here. I'm looking for a rallier. Krupe is my top pick. Coming out of maiden races, he's got class. I don't even know what that means, but like we said, he's running so many against good horses in those maiden races in New York. I think he's getting better. I think he loves 9 furlongs. Krupe to pick up the pieces for me. Hopefully the maiden will have big odds in the Risen Star. Rachel Alexandra, Matt, I don't know how much we need to talk about our top pick. Who's your top pick?
Yeah, I guess we're agreeing here, and it's hard not to like Hoosier Philly as the favorite in the Rachel Alexandra. I think she's a really talented 3-year-old.
I think she's the best 3-year-old filly in the country. So obviously she's my top pick as well. We'll see more. I could have egg on my face after that statement, but that's where we are with our Rachel Alexandra top picks. And then we go to the Mineshaft, and I was debating between 2 horses. Matt, who's your top pick?
My top pick is Pioneer of Medina for Todd Pletcher. Anytime you can get Pletcher and you're not a heavy favorite, that's a good thing. I thought if he can run back even a little bit close to his performance in the Harlan's Holiday, he's going to be very dangerous.
Yeah, and that was one of the 2 horses I was debating between. I went back and forth and back and forth. Finally, I decided on Tawny Port. Pioneer Medina, I like him for every reason that you've talked about. But Tawny Port, Brad Cox brings these horses ready to run after a layoff. I expect him to get better as a 4-year-old. I liked him as a 3-year-old. Tawny Port will be my top pick in the Mineshaft. A good race there. Matt, we talked about 3 good races. It should be a fun day at Fairgrounds. Before we go, though, let me get a parting shot from you, my friend, in New Jersey.
Yeah, and I'm going to just talk a little bit more about Krupe, a horse that, I have in my top 3 in that race. If you're going to bet him, make sure you're betting him and not just in the win spot. Maybe across the board. Definitely use him in the trifectas and the exactas, because you're going to get a nice Pletcher horse here at double digits for sure.
Yeah, that's my top pick, Matt. I want him to win. But yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you. All right. Hey, that's our show. Thanks to everybody for watching. We appreciate you tuning in every week. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Please do so. We appreciate it. Thanks to Candace Curtis for the race graphics. Derby Wars, our sponsor, the best contest site out there. Timeform US for their excellent pace projections. Folks, next week we have a lot to talk about. There's a $20 million race halfway across the world, for instance, the Saudi Cup. We'll see what's going on over in Saudi Arabia. And we're also going to talk Kentucky Derby Trail. Surprise, surprise. Next week on HorseCenter. Until then, have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you soon.